All right, I'm starting YouTube. Just gotta wait for it to get going. All righty, YouTube is up and running.
Okay, well, I call the meeting to order. Lanny, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do, chap.
Okay, in terms of members speaking, have we received any emails about people that with people that want something to be heard?
Nothing's been submitted to us.
Okay, and we'll move to the secretary's report, which is the approval of the May 27th, 2021 meeting.
I move that we approve the May 27th meeting minutes.
I second. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, opposed, no. It carries.
Sorry, I'm late.
It
You're not
carries
the last.
7. It carries 7-0.
What did I just vote for?
Approval of the
The
minutes,
meeting, approving minutes. So it's 8-0.
but I didn't count you. Now it's 8-0. All right, we'll move on to the president's report. All I want to talk about is a subject that's no surprise to anyone, and that is that unfortunately the pandemic isn't in the rearview mirror. Most of us are particularly concerned about the Delta variant and the apparent reluctance of a large portion of the population to get vaccinated. We monitor the situation closely, particularly with Lanny's help. At this time, we're not contemplating any renewed restrictions on activities at Sterling Oaks, although Lanny will later propose 1 or 2 changes that don't involve restrictions. While we're not contemplating any restrictions, we won't hesitate to act if we deem it necessary. At this point in time, I don't think any of us thinks it's necessary.
I have,
Good news. Yes,
can I ask one question? So are we allowed, or would we want to ask people to show their vaccination cards?
No.
No.
I don't know.
Can we
Lanny,
do
do you
it?
know?
Can't do it? Yep.
I believe the governor forbids that.
Oh, but as a private, we don't have any.
I don't think we.
It's
have
my
a-
understanding that the governor's rule even forbids us from doing that.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're just relying on it. For example, I saw your note about people wearing masks in the clubhouse that have been unvaccinated. You have to just count on people being honest about that.
Right. I think our choices are to, target them for the recommendation or mandate everyone. And I think at this point, that's the better way to go, but we'll discuss it a little later.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, in spite of the, what I'll call bad news, is on the good news side, I'm not aware of any COVID-related problem in our community. The caveat here is we certainly don't check on the health and well-being of our residents every day. So what I'm reporting is only what is brought to our attention and is anecdotal as opposed to empirical. Further good news is that from a financial standpoint, we are in really good shape. You'll hear that from our treasurer. We're also on schedule for the completion of projects such as street paving, light pole replacement, and paver work at the clubhouse, and you'll hear more about that in Mark's general manager's report. Last thing I'll say, and I don't pretend to be speaking for the board as a whole, I personally urge all of our residents and members to follow the science and get vaccinated. It's got nothing to do with politics, in my opinion. It just seems to me that the reward for all of us far outweighs the risk. That is the end of my general manager's or president's report. Before I move on, are there any questions?
Chap, let me just say, even though we don't have the right to ask people, people are very open about it in community. I can say probably anyone I play tennis with and any neighbor I know has been very open. I don't know anyone in Sterling Oaks that hasn't related to me. They are vaccinated. You know, I
Good.
mean, haven't, you know, I mean, I think people are very open about it. I suspect we're at 95%. Is that your feeling, Lanny?
No,
In Sterling
I,
Oaks residents.
I'm aware of many Sterling Oaks residents who, as well as staff who are not vaccinated, including tennis players.
Is that right? Okay.
I suspect.
You're in the
I
wrong
suspect-
crowd. You're in the wrong crowd, Lanny.
Well, I just may know more about them. I think more of a high percentage of those of us over 65 are vaccinated, but I'm afraid a number of the young people are not.
I think probably everyone, with one or two exceptions I'm talking about, are probably over 65. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know some young people that are vaccinated. My neighbor's 48 and they, as a teenager, and they're all vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, definitely some are, but I don't think it's 95%.
well,
And we
I think it's
can't
high.
ask,
I think it's
right?
high though.
We cannot ask either.
I haven't asked, but people volunteer it. We talk.
Yeah, but I mean, we
yeah,
can't
yeah,
ask,
I know. I
right?
know.
As
Yeah.
individual people, you can, as a friend
Right,
and
yeah.
neighbor, you can,
Yes, yes,
but
but not
as an
a-
organization,
we
the
can't.
club at Sterling Oaks cannot ask for the status, is my understanding of the law. I heard Judge Hart talk about it, and he seemed pretty clear.
Okay, let's move on to the general manager's report. Mark, you're up.
All right, I think all of you have got my report there. It's, we're waiting on the delivery of the streetlights and poles, and they should be probably done in middle of August. And once they arrive on scene, Alan's got all the materials and everything ready to go to get those started and install them as we go down the line. The dumpster enclosure in the back parking lot in the west end is done. We're just waiting on the actual fence company to provide us with the rolling fence that will shield it and kind of block it off from the rest of the parking lot. So it'll be a nice transition down there. We won't see all of that at the end of the parking lot anymore once that fence in. The milling and paving of the streets is going to start on Monday on the 26th. Spoken with a company, they're bringing in 2 big milling machines. So they'll start in a couple areas. We've sent out the maps to everybody. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we post more information probably in the bulletin boards, especially at the condos and at the front and the back gates. We'll continue to monitor and send out more FYI emails to everyone as well, just to make sure that people are aware of the dates and times that all this is going to happen. Yes, Terry.
I'm glad that you did that, Mark, because I've had a complaint that they can't read the maps. So if we do a follow-up, it would be much appreciated.
Yeah, we'll continue to make sure that we're as transparent as possible on that. So just to let everybody know, the milling is, if you've been here before, they take a big machine and they grind the pavement down approximately an inch or so on the right-hand side of each against the valley gutter, and a half an inch up by the crown of the road. And once they've done that, everybody can drive on that with no problem. So once they do the milling and they're past your house, you can come and go. There's no issues with that. It's only once they start the paving, because when the pavement is hot and it is curing, we just don't like people backing out of their driveway, spinning the wheels, which creates pock marks on the new pavement and wear marks. We're also going to have to get a hold of our friends at Waste Management to make sure that they're aware of this too, because they're the ones that are probably the worst offenders on that. So just what we're gonna do is just ask everybody, and we'll post it. If you can park across the street in your neighbor's yard, you know, for the time that we need you to, then we'll get all this done. Same with down in Sanctuary Point and all the way up along the main drag as we seal coat that. We'll do one side of the road, then the other, so we have traffic availability. The Cabana oven is in, and we've kind of been experimenting with it. We had a group of individuals. We kind of called a small group of residents to come down on Tuesday night and sit underneath the pool pavilion and get served a variant menu of different items that the chef is trying, so that we could get some feedback on items. Also get some ideas on how fast the oven works. So he was cooking pot stickers, egg rolls, vegetarian dishes, did a whole number of things, crab bites, and
I was there. It was a very pleasant
oh, there you
evening.
go. Yeah, Terry was
It
there.
was
Yeah,
really, really well done. And
Oh.
my hat's off to the chef for playing around.
but it was nice to get some ideas on that. So we're going to continue that. We'll keep moving forward, getting that pushed together as time goes by. The condo fence line, which is on both sides of the road, by the way, it's on north and south border, is complete, and the plants are growing well. Landscaping is going to be looking at some of the plants on the outside on 41, which I think is part of one of their phased projects as well. The only other things that we have that are not on my report are the closing of the clubhouse areas during August. I think it's 10th to the 13th. I'll have to make sure that I'm correct on that. We're going to be doing the cleaning. So we're going to be having the Stanley steamer in to do the floors to make sure everything gets done. And we're going to be doing some deep cleaning throughout the house, making sure that that's all. Now we do that once a year. And this year we're going to make sure that it's all floor surfaces are disinfected and clean. Locker rooms, fitness areas, all upstairs, all the rugs, all the areas, as well as looking at all the furniture. And then we're going to be doing some touch up, some painting, interior work as well, which takes up that week. So we'll go ahead and get that done during that time. That's about it for now.
What about the paver project, Mark?
The paver project's probably going to be sometime in September, October, or middle to late September, just because we're waiting on the pavers. They're 20 weeks out.
Wow. Okay, Lanny?
Mark, you want to mention the mailbox numbers?
Yeah.
Well, so we, throughout the community, the mailboxes, because they've been in for several years now, had white vinyl letters attached to them. And over time, they started to peel and fade, and people were asking if they could get replaced. So we decided to look into another solution. Everybody's mailbox has a little oval sort of placeholder on the very top of it. So I went to our sign company and got them to provide us with a quote on routing out all the letters for all of the mailboxes throughout the communities, double-sided, and then we use set screws that are stainless steel and attach them. And so I think we've been pretty productive. I think we're down in Sanctuary Point now, and then we'll finish up in Wildcat. But I think all of Manatee, Deer Creek, and Willow Bend have been done. And these will last now for probably in the next 10 years or so. So I think that way we don't have to worry about any.
Motion detector. I can't stop it.
Well, they look great,
Oh,
I
good.
think.
Good to
Yeah,
hear.
they look really good.
Mark,
Brownie,
Brother.
go ahead.
let me bring up again, and I've checked, there aren't many, but I know mine's hanging on one screw. They need, they know how to, they fix some that fell off. Mine still needs to be, it's about to fall off. It's got only one screw holding it. And they strip. And there's
Right.
a few other neighborhoods I've kind of noticed going, most of them are okay. So I would ask that they, maybe when they're putting the new numbers on, it'd be a good time to fix any that are where the screw is stripped.
Okay. You're at 1994?
14489.
14489. Okay.
And there's a
I'll
few
check it.
others. I didn't write them down. I walk the dog all the time. Most of them are okay. I've been kind of checking them.
I'll
But
have
there are a
Alan
few
go,
others.
go down there and check again. I
What
think when they were
happens-
down there putting those new mailbox numbers on, they're checking that as well. So,
You remember there was a period, there were 2 or 3 along Sterling Oaks Drive that were actually knocked off completely. And when that happened, they evidently must have done mine. That's when it actually, one of the screws kind of became stripped. So I know they know how to fix it. So if you would get it fixed, I worry about it dropping off all the time.
I'll take care of it. Thank you.
And there are others probably.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, we will move on to the treasurer's report. John?
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm a little late. I was having internet problems. All right,
Yeah, I just read that there's a widespread internet outage in the country, so I'm a little surprised we're even doing this.
all right. So we'll start with the numbers again. Again, we keep on doing a great job. Our operating cash is 671,000. Total cash is 2 million. And our long-term capital fund is 295,000. And our renovation construction loan is down to $44,000. And our delinquency is only $11,000, which is very low. Our month of June continued our positive results, had net income of 19 grand versus a budget of 11 for a positive variance of $8,000. Okay, tennis continued doing a good job and had a favorable variance of $6,000 for the month, partly due to timing of expenses, and has a favorable variance of $39,000 for the year. Food and beverage had unfavorable variance of $4,000 and has a year-to-date favorable of $23,000 for the year. Common area had a favorable variance of $7,000, mostly timing due to landscaping, and has a year-to-date favorable variance of $59,000. G&A had a favorable variance of $7,000, once again due to the sale of homes, and has a year-to-date favorable variance of $122,000. Okay. The year-to-date net income of, as of 6/30 is $342,000 versus a budget of negative $85,000 for a favorable variance of $428,000. This includes a PPP loan of $188,000. At this time, we don't expect much to change for the remainder of the year, except for some timing of expenses that we know about. And I am still expecting us to be at the end of the year of 300,000 plus. Let me know if you have any questions or comments.
Can't ask for much more. That's great.
Everything is doing great.
Okay. I guess then, John, do you just keep going on here? Is that where we are? Yeah. We're on to the food and beverage project team report and the tennis project team report and the ACH requirement. And I think all of those fall under your purview, John. Mulligan.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll start with the finance committee report.
Whatever you'd like.
Yeah, okay, so the finance committee was an update from the treasurer, which was myself. And we briefly talked about a couple of the project teams, food and beverage project team. This team is still meeting and looking at a variety of options to maximize the value of the food and beverage spending to all homeowners. Probable outcomes are in line with the HOA strategic plan. And it's unlikely that, any of the clues that we'll come up with will be significantly change the total of the food and beverage subsidy. But hopefully it will some, and we're trying to increase the membership increase the participation in all our events, the bar, in the clubhouse. We were hoping to have a final report this time, but due to vacations and other things, we're going to meet one more time and hopefully have a final report at our next meeting. Okay. I'll come back to the tennis project team. Reserve study, Mark reports that is underway, and will be complete in time for the orderly budget process. Major changes from last year are likely to include the new tennis reserve schedule, the elimination of previously proposed reserve contribution from non-resident tennis members, an allowance each year for retaining wall maintenance rather than a large one-time replacement, an allowance each year for retaining wall maintenance. I'm sorry, I just read that. An increase in sidewalk maintenance, a more exact accounting of excess renovation assessments that will be transferred to reserves 21 and 20. Budget, the zone is likely to provide the treasurer and the finance committee the first draft of the 22 budget sometime in August. This will allow ample time for discussion prior to presentation to the board in November. The budget proposal will be zero-based as usual, with some guidance provided by the treasurer regarding tennis, food and beverage, and long-term capital fund. ACH, we reviewed the staff proposal for ACH requirements, and we have recommendations which we will go over when we make the motions on that. In the water project, the background, when Sterling Oaks was developed, most of the community irrigation was sourced from the lakes and underground aquifers. Infrastructure, pumps and pipes was also provided. Approximately 135 homes in Deer Creek and Sanctuary Point were not included in the irrigation plan, and these homes sourced their irrigation water from Collier County. The homeowners pay water and sewer fees for their irrigation water. It is estimated that monthly irrigation costs for these homeowners are $80 to $100. Okay, we had two options. The first option was to require new meters for each affected home. Jim Oxley investigated this with staff members of Collier County Utilities. The cost of the new water meters and associated impact fees is approximately $4,500 per home. The payback period for saving the sewer cost was 8 to 10 years. This option is rejected for not being financially feasible. The second option, connect 135 homes to the existing water sources and infrastructure. This option would require additional pumps and construction. The first cut of cost of doing this is an estimate of $667,000. This option seems to be marginally feasible, but added work is needed. Part of the cost might be borne by the HOA, since these are benefits that will accrue to all homeowners, not just 135. Action items for this is for Mark, we will work with the Hoover pump people to refine the numbers, determine approximately how much 135 homeowners have paid over the years to support the cost of the entire community, propose how much of the money would be paid by the HOA versus 135 homeowners, and contact Jason and make a proposal as to how any assessments would be approved and collected.
John, I've got
Question.
one comment and one question.
Okay.
For those of you that aren't aware, both on the board and those who might be listening in, John, I believe that the reason that Deer Creek and Sanctuary Point were left out is that the developer ran out of money. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. They switched developers also at the time. Because there's
Okay.
like 2 or 3 different developers throughout Sterling Oaks over the years.
Yeah, right. Lanny?
Well, the other issue was the new developer decided not to drill any wells. You know, the supply from the current irrigation ponds was not deemed to be sufficient for those additional homes. And he could have done something else like drill a well or that sort of thing, but the builder didn't do that. And so those homes were sold with county irrigation. So it was something that people knew about. I have a question too, but Chap, you wanted to finish, I think.
Yeah. just to put it in perspective, and I think we've covered this before, these homeowners are paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 to $100 a month just to water their lawns. So their monthly bill from Collier County is probably around $200. Mine is, for example, 90. So I think $80 to $100 is probably what this shortfall in providing Sterling Oaks water is costing these homeowners, just so we all understand that. Brownie?
I had a question. John, I thought there was a third option, or maybe it's included in the second, where we actually put in some wells to just service those 135. So I didn't hear, I was a little confused. There were only two options. What happened to the well option?
Well, the second option is having new wells and pumps put in. Mark could add more to that than myself, but
Oh, so the second option could be wells or additional lines from the existing, is what you're saying.
Mark, you want to chime in on that?
On the irrigation, wells are probably going to be problematic only from the amount of water that would have to be taken out of the wells, the placing of the wells, and the permitting of the wells. Currently, if we added a pump station and used the lakes, we would only have to permit a small amount. It'd only be $1,000. And building one pump station to service the community in thirds would be easier to do than trying to figure out how to do those wells.
Well, I'm not trying to get into evaluating the pluses and minuses. My question just, are we still looking at wells as an option? Because what I'd heard, there were three options, okay, and you only had two.
We've taken wells off the table because of the cost.
Okay, well, that's news to me. Okay, I didn't know you took the wells off the table.
Okay, Lanny?
Two questions. Following up this recent discussion, where would the water come from, given that our pond was virtually dry this year without the additional 135 homes? If you use the existing water on those people too, things are going to dry up, right?
Well, your lake draws down, it does recharge. The other lakes do not draw down as fast, such as Lake One out in front of the clubhouse does not go down to the down on the same amount of it doesn't seem to fall as fast in conjunction with the rest of the community, and there's still plenty of water in Wildcat. So, your lake there at Well Bend does get used, but it if we did things right, then only Deer Creek and Sanctuary Point would utilize Willow Bend Lake. Pump 1 would satisfy Manatee and Willow Bend, and then the new pump station would satisfy the condo common areas.
But again, I would suggest we don't get into discussion today. Let the committee do that and come with that. We could spend hours on this.
There's a lot of hydraulic work to be done. That's all I can say.
My other question for John is just for an understanding. You indicate that adding these homes to the current irrigation would be beneficial to everyone in the community. Help me understand why that benefits the other homeowners.
Okay. Once again, I'll defer to Mark on that.
It's the only thing is that right now we have a disparity in the community. I think from an optic standpoint, to have the entire place on irrigation that could be controlled, we could manage our water resources effectively. Collier County would be very happy with us. So would South Florida Water Management District.
Okay, but there is no direct benefit for the other 600 homeowners.
Well, this one just.
Okay.
Wild
I
beings.
suppose not directly beneficial, but
It always does.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I think now we can begin to get into some of the meat of this meeting, John. with a couple of your motions, I believe is where we're going next.
Yeah, first we'll start with, I think the easier one.
Yeah,
There was a staff proposal submitted to the Finance Committee to require ACH for all homeowners, non-resident tenants, social members, and tenants. At this time, the Finance Committee does not recommend that ACH be required of any homeowners, but does feel that the ACH should be required of all renters and all new non-resident tenants and social members. Based on that, I make the following motion. Require ACH for all new non-resident tenants and social members. The ACH will only be activated if the member does not pay for the service at the time of use. This was also a recommendation from the Tennis Committee. Number 2, require ACH for all renters.
Second,
Can I just ask one question before we do that?
Yeah, I have a question too.
How many of the current homeowners are on ACH? Do we have any idea?
I am.
I don't have a number off the top of my head, but it's probably around half.
Just half, okay.
Storage, like we do.
And how about, what's the reason to not have homeowners have ACH?
I can't answer that because I am all for it.
The finance committee.
But
what-
the finance
why
committee
did
in their
the finance
discussions felt that there was not a reason to
Lauren?
mandate homeowners to do that simply because they are, they can pay their assessment as they wish. It's not, I don't think it's up to us to tell them that they are automatically going to have ACH when they have the right to be able to pay with any other method that they deem necessary.
Plus we reached out to a couple of real estate agents and they have not seen mandatory ACH in any other communities in our area.
For
I had one question, a clarification, John.
Homeowners, yes.
A renter or non-resident though can still use a credit card and pay at the time if they want to, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So as long as they can use a credit card, in a way, it gives them an option if they don't want to use ACH then, I guess, right?
Chap?
yes, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, it appears that the recommendation shows that any new renter, tennis member, resident tennis member will have to use ACH in this presentation. But does it mean that the ones that presently are in place are grandfathered and can use either one?
This
Yeah.
is
Here's
just
that
saying
way.
if somebody, for example, has a tennis lesson today and they want to pay by credit card, they still can no matter what. If somebody walks away from the tennis court and forgets to pay their tennis lesson, we'll have to member charge it and that would be collected via ACH. So moving forward, if somebody was to buy a tennis membership today, they'll still have to give us their ACH information, but they'll be able to pay for their services at the time that they still purchase them or sign up for them. Same with the renter.
I think,
A renter would
Terry, I
still be
think
able to
the
go to the
answer-
cabana and buy a beer, but if they walk away because it starts raining and they just run away without signing their tab or closing out their credit card or pay by credit card, it would be charged to them and collected by ACH.
Thank you. for
Terry,
the
I think the answer to your question is this, the mandatory ACH applies to new non-resident tennis members, not the current.
Understood.
Well,
Isn't that right, John?
Yeah, it's just for the new ones. And if, as Cezanne said, if they don't pay by the other means.
Right, right.
So
Fine.
you have the option.
I'm still confused. Let me answer the question the other way. And I think what Terry said and what CSUN said, if a existing member has a new charge from what CSUN said and didn't pay for it, it would be ACH, even if they
No.
were existing. Is that right?
Not necessarily because that person may not. So as of today, if somebody comes in and buys a tennis membership, they'll be required to give us ACH information. But if Mr. Smith signed up 5 years ago and he's a non-resident member, I'm not going back to him and telling him he's required with this given motion to give me ACH information. So we will have a handful of non-resident tennis members not with ACH information not in file.
Okay.
Just for new non-residents, tennis and social members.
Lanny's had a question for a while.
How about
Yeah,
if
Lanny, go
it,
ahead.
how about if it, when an existing non-resident renews their membership, do they then become required to use ACH
No,
at a
No.
renewal time?
No,
no.
Okay.
Lanny?
Thank you. Comment and a question. Comment, Lauren, in regards to your question, it's my understanding that the problem of people being late on their bills and then complaining about late fees has been mostly non-resident tennis members. So this motion is targeted to where the problem is. And
Okay.
that's, you know, that's a major thing. My question is, why were clubhouse members left off of this? Because it seems to me they should be there too.
I consider Clubhouse part of our social members.
But it's actually a different membership category, correct? So I would, John, like to ask you to amend your motion to include clubhouse members.
Non-resident club, yeah, okay.
Well, the only clubhouse members are
That's right.
non-residents.
That's right, okay.
So we have a social membership and we have a clubhouse membership and we have a non-resident tennis. It would apply to all of them. And
Yes.
just so that it's clear, I mean, I understand Suzanne thinks of them the same, but their documentation are different. So I'd like it to apply to them too.
okay, I thought it was the same thing, but I'll add that. I'll amend the motion to include clubhouse membership.
Thank you.
Second,
Okay, one question. On number 2, it says require ACH of all renters. Is that what we're really intended? That's not what people were saying when they were discussing it.
Well, there were two different things we're discussing. The first one, what everybody was discussing, was more for the non-resident tennis players. The second one is for just renters and it has nothing to do with old or new. It's just renters.
So all renters would be required to give an ACH.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
just wanted to
very
make it
hard
clear.
to track down a renter from California that comes here for a month and then leaves.
I don't disagree with you, Suzanne.
Yeah.
I just, I want to make it clear that every renter who comes in here from now on has to pay or has to give us ACH.
Yep, and we don't have to use it as long as they pay for services if they go and get the beer at the time that they buy it. This is just if, in the case that they put it on their account.
Another clarification, does that include long-term renters? You know,
Yes.
that rent years and years?
Yes.
Yes.
All renters.
New ones, yeah, new ones, okay.
A lease has to be updated every year, so yes.
So it includes, to be clear, it includes people who will be coming back for this season,
Yes.
Yes.
right?
all
Just
renters.
not new to Sterling Oaks.
Yeah, they're a new renter in a sense.
Correct.
Well, because
They're not
you're-
renting in between seasons, so they're a new renter, okay.
But renters, it doesn't have to be new. It's just all renters. They
All
can be
renters.
fifth
Yeah,
time.
all renters, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Even if they pay with credit card at
If they
wherever.
pay with credit card, the ACH will not be used.
Correct.
That's just a backdrop. If they don't pay, as Suzanne was saying, they walk away, we're gonna go use the ACH method.
So it's a safety net.
Just like at your hotel, if you buy a beer and you forget to pay for it, they'll put it on your room. Kind of the same thing. And your room, at the end of the day, gets charged on the credit card you gave them when you checked in. Kind of the same sense, just a different ACH versus credit card.
It would be interesting to see what incentive we could come up with at some point to make more of the homeowners switch off to that. I'm not quite understanding, why more people wouldn't want that. It's just so much easier in your lifetime to just have it paid automatically, but.
Every
Well,
board member uses ACH, so I can't understand
Yeah.
why either. I would love for
I'm
everybody to
so
do
used
it.
to paying
but I
bills,
wasn't.
I guess.
Believe it or not, Lauren, I've had this conversation with at least 2 homeowners
Yeah,
who are very old fashioned.
They like
They-
to write their own checks.
They like to write their check.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. And it just, it's just so much easier when things are just automatically paid, but I understand.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lauren, and I don't understand it either, but there was a lot of, when this came out that we might be doing this, there was a lot of backdraft coming back that, banking system's not safe, I don't want to do it.
Right, exactly.
And another big thing is, we say we require it, okay? What if they refuse?
Right,
We
right.
could put a
Right,
lien
no,
on
I
No.
understand the
I mean,
reasoning
so-
behind it. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it would just, if there was a way to just entice them would be nice.
Or,
get
I mean,
more
there's
people
also
onto
another
it,
school
but-
of thought, which we'll talk about maybe in the future, is not entice them, but possibly penalize them,
Mhm,
like we
mhm.
do for, I believe, when
You mean
send
you
a
don't want
statement-
to,
There's
You
some
don't wanna
places
give
out
up-
there that charge a fee to process a
Process.
check.
That's
Right.
right. Or
right, but a lot of companies do, you don't want to give them a free drink if they sign up for ACH?
I'm not allowed to give away any more free food and beverage.
I think we have a motion, I think we have an amended motion on the table that was seconded.
yes,
Yeah.
Could we take a vote on that motion? John Mulligan, could you read the amended motion again that we're voting on?
Sure. Require ACH for all new non-resident tennis players, clubhouse members, and social members. The
All right,
ACH
that-
will only be activated if the member does not pay for the service at time of use.
Okay,
Require
that motion,
All renters.
right, that motion has been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, that was the easy one.
Yes.
John, you've got a couple more we have to cover.
Get my notes here. Okay. The second one will be the tennis project team.
Right,
Report and recommendations.
correct.
Okay. Over the next 10 years, the projected total spending from the tennis reserves is approximately $762,000. This is paid by 100% of the homeowners, while only 11% of the owners are tennis members. The challenge for this project team is to come up with an equitable solution for all homeowners. Proposed solutions. Tennis reserve review. A thorough review of projected reserve spending over the next 10 years indicated that tennis reserves are likely overstated by $168,000. Paul Barris also did a review of the court replacement schedule. He consulted with numerous court experts, and the consensus was that a 20-year life for Hart True Courts is reasonable, and that should be the basis for our planning. That is what is in the current reserve. So based on this, the net 10-year savings from a review of reserves is $168,000. The second, excuse me, the second solution was tennis profitability review. The 10-year tennis profitability projections were reviewed, and the estimated tennis profits for each year were changed from $0 to $20,000 a year. This is in line with the last 10 years, the current state of our program, and future perceived health of our program. The net 10-year increase in profitability is $200,000. Additional increase in tennis contributions. Our project team agreed to recommend that the tennis dues go up by $50 per member, $100 for family membership. This with approximately 350 members, this provides added profit of $17,500 a year. The 10-year increase is approximately $175,000. The
Yeah,
fourth,
I second that motion, so we can have a discussion.
let me finish the report first, and then we'll get to the motions.
That wasn't
Okay.
really the motion. Okay.
No, right, okay.
Sorry.
The fourth solution, access to courts for non-tennis playing owners. Even with the numbers and items 1 through 3 above, there remains an amount that all the owners of Sterling Hopes, tennis players and non-tennis players, would be subsidizing tennis operations. To provide fairness and equitable treatment, we recommend that each home in Sterling Oaks receive 8 court passes per year to be used, 1 per person. These may be used as follows. 1, by the homeowner's immediate family members or overnight guests. They are not transferable. They may not be used by renters. B, after 3 p.m. on Monday through Saturday and all days on Sundays. 3, reservation can be made 3 days prior to play. Must include the names of all players and be made with the tennis office. 4, players must use appropriate clay court shoes and allow all tennis rules. It is estimated that providing this access will potentially cause a reduction in guest fees paid currently by about $2,000 per year, or $20,000 over the 10 years. Okay. So the summary, our $762,000 gap was reduced by $523,000. This leaves a gap of $239,000. The access passes are meant is a way for providing them with more than equivalent value in tennis usage in recognition of this subsidy. Okay, just to be, so we're all transparent here, solutions 1 through 3 were approved both by the project team and the tennis committee.
That's correct.
Solution 4 was approved by the project team, but not approved by the tennis committee. Recommendation of the project team that we approve all these solutions. So I have 2 different motions here.
Yeah, let's just deal with them one at a time.
Yes. First motion is new tennis player reserve figures, reducing reserves by $168,000. Increasing tennis profitability projection to $20,000 over, or $200,000 over the next 10 years. Increasing Sterling memberships, $50 single, $100 family, and Oaks membership, $25 single, $50 family, starting 9/1/21. That would be $175,000 over the next 10 years.
I second that motion. Let's have a discussion, questions, let's go.
I have a question.
Okay, Lauren, go ahead.
So the increase will be $50 across the board, whether you are a Sterling Oaks homeowner or an outside tennis player. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so was there any discussion about either having a slightly more increase for people from the outside as opposed to the same for both homeowners and outside players?
Well, let me address that. Actually, the discussion was more the other way, that maybe there ought to be more for the homeowners and not the outside, since they pay quite a bit more. But anyway, answer your question, Laura, there was discussion, but more, I'd say the other way. And it was decided this would be pretty much straight across the board. Okay. Okay.
But, okay, I have a question.
Lauren, you still aren't satisfied. Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just considering there's only 11% of Sterling Oaks homeowners that are tennis members. I don't know, optically, do we really want them to think that they're carrying the same weight of the increase as an outside member, albeit they do pay more? But obviously, as a homeowner, everybody's paying for tennis, and as a tennis player, you're certainly paying all the other expenses. That would be my, and I don't see it as a big gap. I don't see that, you know, homeowners should pay $5 more and outside players should pay $500 more. I'm just saying, is there a way to look like that's more equitable to the homeowners of Sterling Oaks? I mean, I don't think we're talking about a lot of money, but nonetheless.
Well, again,
Well, I don't think we're gonna
there was concern
resolve
about,
that.
let me,
Go ahead, Brownie.
since the non-members pay, it's not twice as much, but it's close. What is it? Maybe 75% more, right? Roughly, Lanny?
Non-resident.
Non-residents. And looking at other clubs, there was more concern that if we raised it too much, we might lose some non-members, which contribute. So it's like any marketing thing, Lauren. You know, a price increase can get you more money, it can also drive away customers. So that was discussed. And again, there, if anything, was a feeling perhaps that the homeowners had a very good price that maybe increased the homeowners more. And that was kind of, that wasn't the majority opinion. So again, to answer your question, we could discuss, it's a qualitative thing, but there was concern that too much raise could start driving away non-members relative to some other clubs, okay?
Cap,
Okay.
Ken,
I got a question. The way this is written, it sounds like we're not going to increase the fees again over the next 10 years. I don't think that's a good thing to say.
no, that's not what it means.
We're not saying that.
You're gonna have the 50, John, if I'm correct, the $50 is simply for court construction. It has nothing to do with any other fee structure that may come along afterwards. Is that correct, John?
No.
No, correct. This is just an increase in fees to the members, outside or inside. It's not saying that we're not going to do it over the next 10 years. If the tennis committee or the board thinks that it should be raised 2 years from now, it could be raised again. I mean, this is just to get us where we think we need to be right now, not saying nothing about future years.
let me clarify this. This is for the year starting in September 1st. And it'll be implemented on the anniversary date of every member starting September 1st, right, Cezanne?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And it's really for the next year. What happens a year from now, we'll see. It doesn't preclude any changes a year from now.
Cap,
Yes.
this fee was actually constructed separate from any other fee questions. It was separated out just to maintain what we needed to have and have coverage to maintain courts or whatever we have over the long term. So that's a one fixed item that will go on for the next number of years and should stay the same. Any other fee changes over the course of time based on what the competition is or whatever, or if we need more revenue somewhere else, that comes separate from this. This is simply for one item only, and that's through what John's committee has structured for us.
The 10-year fixed component of this is what they've done to the reserve study.
Correct.
This increase is an increase of dues that has nothing to do with what goes into reserves. This goes to operating profit. Right, John?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to take whatever we need out of reserves every year to fix the courts, to replace the courts or whatever. This is getting the operating income up to be able to handle that. So the rest of the community doesn't have to be paying for the money coming out of reserves. It's going to be coming out, part of it's going to be coming out of this extra operating income. So if next year we say we got to put $200,000 into the courts, that's going to come out of reserves, which normally mean that we all have to pay, we're all paying extra amount to do that. But with this extra operating income, it's reducing what the rest or all of us are paying.
Lanny?
I want to clarify two things. First, regarding the reserve study, John, you indicated that the reserve study has a life of 20 years for the courts. That's not correct. And I pointed that out to Jim Moxley at the tennis meeting. The reserve study has the courts at a 30-year lifespan, not 20. Just so that everyone's aware of where we're at. I know that Paul thinks it would be better for us to have 20, but then we'd have to put more money in. But the way it is written now, it is 30 unless you're planning to change it, which then will increase our reserve money. So just so that everyone's clear, and you might want to change that note in your report. Second, just for all board members, I just want to point out that even though tennis members are by far the most frequent users of the courts, all homeowners own the courts, and all homeowners are permitted to use the courts as guests if they pay as guests, and many homeowners do. Unfortunately, we don't have a good number of that because an awful lot of them do it without paying the guest fee that they're supposed to, and just play on the weekends when there's no one in the tennis office. But I often see non-tennis members out there. That's an issue that we're aware of, but unless we increase staffing so we have somebody that can talk to them, it's something that we can't address. But I think it is critical for everyone to remember that that tennis members have no ownership in the courts whatsoever. It's only homeowners that own the court. And we're extremely fortunate here in Sterling Oaks that at turnover, homeowners receive the courts for a cost of zero. We did not have to pay a single penny for that asset, which is probably worth at least a couple of $1 million, that is then owned by all of us as being members of the club.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Well, we have a motion on the table that's been seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Aye. Franny, do you have more discussion?
No, I was raising my hand earlier.
Aye.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it carries 8-1. Okay. Let's move on to the second motion, John. I expect this one will be lively. So go ahead.
Yep. Okay, second motion. I make a motion to adopt the policy of issuing 8 passes to each household in Sterling Oaks, following all Sterling Oaks tennis rules, including using appropriate clay court shoes, with the following restrictions. 1, by homeowners, immediate family members, or overnight guests. They are not transferable. They may absolutely not be used by renters. 2, after 3 p.m. on Monday through Saturday and all day on Sundays. 3, reservations can be made 3 days prior to play, must include the names of all players and be made with the tennis office. 4, passes are per person, not per court, meaning if you have a foursome playing, that would be 4 passes.
Okay, I will second it. And being the tennis representative, I want to discuss it a little bit first, okay?
Sure.
Okay, I second it in discussion. Okay.
All
First
right,
of all,
I'll start the discussion.
no, I said I wanted to start the discussion.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. To be full transparent, the tennis committee unanimously was against doing this, okay? The project committee team was unanimously, well, I shouldn't say unanimously, but the project team, at least majority, was for doing this. The reasons, the concerns by the tennis committee were, and again, even though I'm for the motion, I want to kind of give the arguments of why the tennis committee was against it. One was, it could be a monitoring problem, keeping track of it, making, and as we all know, when the people do come out there sometimes in the previous, they don't have the proper tennis shoes and they do damage to the courts. So there was concern just about the monitoring it and making sure, it's administered and it doesn't hurt the courts, okay? The other argument, which I don't agree with, is homeowners can play anytime they want to by paying a $10 guest fee. Well, that's really not playing anytime they want to if they have to pay a $10 guest fee, because a non-homeowner can play anytime also by paying a $10. So the homeowner really doesn't have anything extra by being able to play for a $10 fee. But despite that, they said, well, homeowners can play anytime they want to, of course, paying a $10 fee. And then there was concern, not a big concern, but recognizing, looking at the guest fee, you would end up probably losing a few guest fees, probably estimated about $2,000, because there could be homeowners that may be paying a guest fee for someone who came down that doesn't have to do that now. But again, we thought that impact would be quite small because understand this is not in the morning. So if their sun is down and they want to play, they have to pay the $10 guest fee if that son wants to play with the group at 9 o'clock in the morning. If they want to play at 3:30 in the afternoon, then they wouldn't have to pay for them. So again, that we don't think the loss of revenue will be that much because most of the guest fees come during the prime times anyway. So that's, and in general, there was just a feeling about really, I think overall of protecting the tennis courts that people who weren't tennis players wouldn't have maybe, be as sensitive, keeping the courts in good shape. My personal opinion is there'll probably be very few homeowners that ever take advantage of this. And there's no downside. To me, there's really no downside to giving the homeowners this privilege. And a lot of homeowners feel like they should have even more than that. Okay.
Ronnie and John, is this intended to supplant what a non-member homeowner can currently do? Or is this in addition to?
I don't understand your question.
Well, a resident non-tennis member can play now, right?
They can play anytime for 10 minutes for $10.
Yeah. If they
Right.
pay-
A certain time, number of years.
Right.
Times a year.
So
Okay.
now we've got a motion on the table, and my question is, does this motion supplant what they can currently do, or is it in addition to what they can currently do?
It's in addition to.
They
Now-
can still play, they can still play at prime time in the morning to 3:30, or what is it, 3 or 3:30, Monday through Tuesday for $10.
Okay, so this
It's
is
in
in addition
addition-
to.
In addition, if they're willing to play after 3 o'clock or on Sunday, 8 guest passes, they can play for nothing. Another way
Okay.
of looking at it, if they use this, they would be getting $80 for the year. If they completely use this benefit, it would be worth $80 for the year. Another way of looking at it. Right
right.
now, if they played at 3:30, they would have to pay $10 for the guests, okay, or for themselves, okay?
All right.
Is that
Well,
clear?
yeah, so before we leave this particular line of questioning, I'd like to hear from Mark regarding how this is the difficulty, if any, of administering 2 programs.
I was not a part of the actual discussions in those project teams. It's just my understanding that current members that are members of the tennis community utilize Chelsea Chelsea court time systems to book their courts. The freebies, and if you're going to use the $10 guest, you'd call up the office and then you'd be penciled into an area that was open, and they would mark that down, but it would not be on, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that they would not be in the Chelsea system and they would not be recorded in the Chelsea system. So I guess if I'm a tennis player and I don't know that Mr. Smith has booked the court through the pro shop and penciled it in, I don't know if the pro shop is considering and putting in that time and slot into the Chelsea system to show that that court time is blocked off. And if it is, they have to, I don't know how they, how they work that. It just seems they're going to have 2 databases to deal with in this. The only other question that I had as the GM was, is this going to require any additional work on the staff's part during high season when there's demand for the courts? And the second was, do you feel that anybody who was a tennis wannabe could play 8 plus 8 times or 12 times or 20 times a year for $80 and be able to play a series of court times during the year for $80 if I was down here for 3 months or 4 months as a snowbird owner, does that give me an opportunity to play a lot of tennis for $80, which is a lot less than any membership? So those are my only 2 questions.
All right, we have any?
Let me respond to
Do
that.
we
a little
have any
bit.
further discussion? Brownie, let Lauren go first, please.
Well, but let me respond to what I said. First of all, Mark, my first point that the tennis committee about monitoring and keeping track of it was that concern about, you talked about. Certainly. The other thing is, understand the guest passes, if you went out and had 4 people, you would only have 2 courts because there's only 1 pass per person. You would have to use 4 of the 8. So this really, if you have playing doubles and they all are using guest passes, it's really only twice a year, okay? It could be more if you were playing singles, just to clarify that. And CSUN might want to address with this. She was on the project team at the meetings, and she may have a better feel of handling, how to handle that. You want to speak on that, CSUN, about how we're going to keep track of how many of who has used it?
I'm not in support of this motion. I don't believe it's going to benefit. I believe it would be a nightmare for the pro shop to try to keep track of this versus the $10 guest fees and how many times people have been here and what they used, and how do you know if a guest is an overnight house guest versus a family member versus a friend down the street. So I can't really speak on behalf of how tennis would try to figure this out, but I am not in support of it.
Okay, any other discussion? I'll put my ass on the limb in a few minutes, but go ahead, Lauren.
Well, I mean, I understand that logistically, everything always creates problems. However, again, I'm going to look at this from value added for the residents of Sterling Oaks. I'm going to look at it from an optics standpoint that it's and again, I don't want this to be misconstrued because my husband is a very avid tennis player, but that tennis gets more than everybody else does, and that becomes somewhat of an issue throughout the community. I can't understand how allowing owners to play after 3:30 when the courts are basically empty for the most part, and let them have an opportunity to go out and use it for a few times without a cost. Because if I'm understanding Brownie correctly, if I want to play at 9:30, as a non-member, I'm still paying the $10.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock, by the way, not
Right,
3:30.
at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know if we're, I'm all for getting more community spirit and action and putting people together. I think people are sick of my increasing participation in events. I see this as a big plus and something that the community, even if they didn't use it, would feel good about, to tell you the truth.
All right, John, I'll get to you in a second. Lanny?
I'd like to make a few points. First of all, you just have asked tennis to increase their profit margin and give $20,000 every year to the general fund. But the guest fee makes up about $10,000 of the profit each year. Brownie mentioned the $2,000 expected loss. I think that's his opinion, not the opinion of the tennis committee. The tennis committee is actually concerned that these free passes will result in a much greater loss, so that it'll be much harder to get that $20,000 profit if we take away $10,000. It could be nearly $60,000 of loss. I don't expect that either, but I just want to point out that this 2,000 is a very, very small number. I also want to point out that the director of tennis is strongly against this, primarily because of the concern of the destruction of courts by people who, when you get something for free, human behavior has shown time and time again that people are not as careful of what they're doing and what they're using. And free sort of means, don't worry about it. there's a strong likelihood that free passes will mean more people playing without official tennis shoes. You cannot play on a clay court with all-purpose running shoes. That will destroy the court. It will mean that in the following morning, it's likely that the court groomers will not be able to groom the court properly, and that our expert repair people will have to be called in, so that tennis members may not be able to play on the court the following morning, which is a major concern of the director of our tennis program. I want to point out that we don't give free food to everyone. And I don't know why we want to give free tennis to everyone. I mean, if anything, we should give more free food, because we're all subsidizing food more, although I know that doesn't make sense. But, I just don't know why, again, on the back of tennis, we want to give something away. The most problematic portion of this, I think, is the category of an overnight guest. There is absolutely no way to monitor that someone is an overnight guest. As I mentioned earlier, we already have homeowners playing on courts without paying. I'm afraid that this system is going to increase that. An awful lot of that play is by young people. We had a lot of trouble earlier this year with kids riding bicycles on courts and playing other games on courts other than tennis, and telling homeowners that their family members can play on the courts, I think is going to be a huge problem. The other thing I wanted to point out, Brownie, you said that non-homeowners can also play on the courts anytime they want. They can't. Non-homeowners from outside Sterling Oaks. You have to be unless you live in Sterling Oaks, you have to be the guest of a tennis member. Anybody walking in this, on the street who wants to play here cannot play. Only homeowners have that privilege of being a member of the club at Sterling Oaks, and then they're allowed to play as guests for the $10 guest fee. If any additional change is made, my proposal would be to reduce the guest fee. But again, I think free is a very bad option for giving something away that is as valuable as our tennis courts and can be destroyed easily, within an hour.
John, you wanted to say something?
I need to
Yes.
respond to that.
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Okay,
I've
Wait
got
a
a
minute.
question on
Okay.
this.
John Mulligan had his hand up first. John?
okay, fine.
All right, so a couple of things. I didn't realize that Lonnie was a psychologist and saying what free means to everybody, but I totally disagree with that. But first of all, just so everyone knows that this is just not me coming up with being a big new treasurer trying to do this. This came from the project team, which is made up of all tennis players. Okay, one is the tennis liaison, two were past board members, and those two were also past presidents. Okay, and so we're talking about having extra work for the staff. Okay, first of all, purpose of this board is to be of service to all 736 doors in this community, not necessarily make the life easier for our staff. Okay, we don't want to make it hard, but we're not looking out to make it easier for them. If they have to do a little extra work on this, okay, so be it. Okay, second of all, we have no idea how difficult this is going to be. Okay, no one's really looked at this exactly how it's going to be done, so we don't know how hard this is going to be at all. And I personally don't think, I agree with Brownie, how many people are going to be using this. All right, so if there's not that many people use it, it's not going to be that hard. Okay, and if at some point it does become a burden, then we have to develop a process how to handle it. Just like anything else, any other job, anything else we do, we have to come up with a process to make it easier. Okay, and if the staff needs help with that, the finance committee, along with myself, will be more than happy to help. Okay, and okay, wait, to a couple other Lonnie's comments there. We're worried about people coming in and ruin the courts. but we're not worried about people not paying $10 and using the courts. What's the difference? If they're free, they're gonna wreck it? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Okay, I mean, so we just had something email sent out the other day, wanting people to come use the courts and pay $10. What's the difference that those people paying $10 and ruining the courts, or the limited amount of people that can be using this ruining the courts? And the last thing is, said, we shouldn't be giving away anything free. We're not giving away anything. The community deserves this. We're all paying for it through our assessments and everything. And you say, okay, we all own it. Technically, we do all own it, but we can't use it unless we pay for it. Unlike the pool, the bocce courts, pickleball courts and all that. So the old company line that we all own it, but we can't use it, doesn't make sense anymore.
All right, Brownie?
I want to address a few. About the loss of income, let me make the point again. Most of the guest income comes during the prime time. I've had guests, I run groups, I've had guests. They didn't break it out, but I suspect there's almost no guest income generated after 3 o'clock, a very small percentage. So that's the reason that 2,000 is even probably a high number. But the point is, most of the guest income we get during the prime hours, that will still be there. Second point, it's not like food and beverage. I can use the food, I can use that if I want to. The difference is anyone can take advantage of the food and beverage. Anyone can't take advantage of the tennis. So that's not the same type of comparison, okay? The third thing is, even though the tennis committee is against it, I'll have to say very frankly, Paul Barris did not speak up strongly. He voted against it. Lanny actually brought up some points supposedly that how Paul Barris felt that Paul has never expressed to me. So even though I know that Paul is against it, he never spoke to me about how strongly, and I'm a little concerned that I'm hearing things from Lanny that I never heard from Paul, although I know he is against it, but certainly not to the extent that that strongly against it, and he never actually expressed some of those concerns to me. Okay, that's all. And let me say
And-
this, I'm for it, but I have mixed emotions about it. But I
Okay.
think that John made a very good point. If kids are already getting on there and riding bicycles and doing that, it's life. People do break laws, whether or not we give the tennis free or not free or allow these aid or do it, it's going to happen anyway. So I thought John had a very good point on that. It's probably not going to make much difference, but I still suspect there's not going to be many of the homeowners that take advantage of this. And there's one other thing that could come out of this too. You might pick up a few homeowners maybe who haven't played tennis in years that go out and take advantage of this and decide to become members or start
Exactly.
taking lessons from Paul. So
That's right.
we could actually, from a marketing standpoint, we could actually maybe pick up a few homeowners I know people who played tennis 20 years ago, I haven't played in a long time. They might get back into it and take lessons and generate income for lessons and actually become members. I'm not saying there would be much of that, but that could happen. Okay, that could be.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Good point, Brownie.
okay.
Ken?
I've got one question for Mark. Have we run this through legal? Because we're putting restrictions on homeowners that, we've allowed the tennis members that are full tennis members to use our facilities anytime, day, night, and they can register for parties anytime they want to. And yet we're saying homeowners can only use the courts from 3 o'clock to, in season, 5 o'clock and on Sundays. Is that really a restriction that we can't legally make?
I sent the whole thing to Jason to ask him his opinions, because one of the questions that I had was and the other part of the freebies is not allowing renters who are the transferred rights of homeowners not to utilize the free passes. And Jason agreed that the board can make the rules of how to run the club and the use rights therein. And he said that absolutely they could deny renters the use of it, and they could make any rules they felt possible in order to make this work. There wasn't any feelings on his part that there was any wrongdoing in all of that. I sent the whole thing to him.
Then why can't we restrict outside tennis members from registering for an event prior to homeowners?
You can.
We've been told we couldn't.
You could just like guests. We've never done that. You can just like guests for parties. We could enact those rules if we wanted to. We just haven't.
Okay.
All right, look, everyone's entitled to an opinion here. I'll give you mine. It's not going to be the majority. Let me give you my opinion. I think we're fixing a problem that doesn't exist. I think we're addressing a demand that doesn't exist. And while doing it, I think we're creating, in spite of the fact that I guess it could be solved, but I think we're creating an administrative problem that is unnecessary. And would be approving something that's not approved by the chairman of the tennis committee or the pro. Therefore, I am not in favor of this. Again, everybody's entitled to an opinion. Lanny?
Brownie indicated that he didn't think that Paul Barris had made any strong statements about this. I
He
understand.
hasn't to
you
me.
know,
He hasn't to me. Okay.
I understand that. I understand he has written to you directly, Chap. Can you convey some of that to us?
It
Well,
was,
basically, I'll just, you know me, I get to the bottom line. He's against it.
he's
And
against it. I said he's against it. I know he's against it. All I'm saying, he's never been vocal at the meetings. He's never been strong. Even the emails weren't expressed as strong as you expressed it. That's all. I was
Just to
very
answer
honest.
your
I know
question-
he's against it.
Just to answer your question, all I've heard from Paul is an email opposing this motion.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
all I have to say. Lanny?
I have an amendment that I'd like to propose. I move that overnight guests be deleted from John's motion. This is definitely a Pandora's box. Anyone and everyone can be called an out-of-town guest. And we have absolutely no system within the club, and it is just a totally inappropriate addition to this. I have less problem giving this privilege to a homeowner and their immediate family, but all their out-of-town guests who live in other communities, I think will dramatically increase the abuse of this. Will anyone second that?
I would think that's actually probably a good idea, because and Lanny, even we say immediate family, they might have an overnight guest who is like a pseudo family member, but it does put a little bit more restrictive on it. I don't see any need to include overnight guests. It could be just immediate family. That's still a little fuzzy. If someone wants to push the line a little bit, they could, but probably less likely to do it. Okay. So it's probably a good idea.
All right, can we
Oh,
take a
is
vote
that a
on the,
second?
yeah, Brownie seconded it.
Okay.
So can we take a vote on the amended motion?
It's
Which
basically to eliminate the overnight guests.
All it does is eliminate overnight house guests. All in favor?
Just the amendment.
Yeah, the amendment.
Just the amendment, yeah. Of eliminating overnight guests
What?
and just
Who
making an
disagrees?
immediate family member.
1, 2, 3, 4. What about you, John?
I'm sorry, you guys all disagree with this?
So
Let's
what-
start
what do we-
over.
We're
What are we
voting
voting
to
on
now?
We're
take
voting
out
on
the
an,
overnight.
we're voting on an amended motion. All in favor of the
No,
amended
no,
You're
motion?
just voting on the amended part, which is just removing overnight guests from the
Right, all we're
motion.
voting
overnight
on is the
guests.
amended part.
Yes.
To remove overnight guests.
In favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion carries. All
Who
opposed?
disapproves?
1, 2. Motion carries 7-2. All right, now we have an amended motion on the table.
And it's the same motion with overnight guests list eliminated.
It's the same motion with the deletion of overnight guests.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the amended motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
One,
Hold on one
two,
second. Let me type.
one,
Okay.
say aye.
Aye.
1, 2,
Aye.
3, 4. Is that right? 4 in favor?
Right.
All opposed?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion fails. Okay. Moving on. No hard feelings, anyone. This is the price of a democracy, I suppose. Committee project team reports. Do we have anything we need to talk about, Terry, on amenity expansion today?
Not today.
Okay.
Report will be for next, in August.
Michael Hargrave, architectural standards.
Okay, ASC needs to add a committee member to kind of help balance the workload. We have a volunteer from Tavernier who the committee has interviewed and would like him to join. That's Alan Johnson. So I want to make a motion that Alan Johnson be assigned to the Architectural Standards Committee.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Okay.
Landscaping, Lanny?
Oh, I got one more thing.
Michael
Huh?
has some other stuff.
I just,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
is there any question? We have two mediations, or we've had two mediations on the book. We completed the first one, which was the Ross situation over. And the mediation was held last week. We came to an agreement on the repairs and cleaning of the home with a timeline for completion, which ASC will follow up on. It was an interesting process, very amenable. I'm not sure why we were there, but it all came out and worked out. We have another mediation coming up for August 18th with a home in Manatee Bay regarding the siding, the vinyl siding. So that one will be interesting because that's going to be precedent setting for us.
What is the
Michael,
issue
can
on
you
the
give us a
siding?
little more details on both of them?
Yeah, what is the detail? What's the issue?
On the second one, the siding on the home is becoming very faded and streaked. We also have other homes in the area with the vinyl siding that's probably going to become an issue in the very near future, especially the blues.
Is it, do you have to paint it or replace it?
You can paint them. There are paints out there with, I've looked at the palettes through Sherwin-Williams and there are, but once you paint them, they will have to be painted every 5 years probably. But similar to what a stucco home would have to be painted. If it was my home, I would probably want to re-side it because then you get another 25 years out of it, you know?
Okay. And then what's the issue on the first one?
The first one was the house was in litigation for a roof replacement for years.
Oh,
The owner did not want to clean the house or the roof. We were asking them for her to clean the roof or clean the siding and the soffits and the one side of the house that had mold streaks down it.
okay.
Cezanne, you got something to add to this?
Just to make comment that these are all violations that were first cited last October. So this has been going on for over almost, close to 9 months.
The
So
board-
these are nothing new.
We fined them back a while ago. They've been through compliance committee, and the next step was to go to mediation before any other legal action would take place.
Mike, whatever happened to the the painted house problem?
They.
Wrong color,
The
unapproved color.
the ASC came, met with the homeowners. There has been an agreement to repaint the house with with approved colors.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
That
Wow.
just sort of worked itself out.
Okay, that's good. Good job.
Okay, that's it for today.
All right, now we go on to landscaping. Lanny?
You have the landscaping committee report in your package. Let me know if there's any questions, but essentially, we're ready for phase 1 of the plantings, and you got in a separate email the details. And so I move that the board approves the proposal from Brightview for phase 1 plantings at a cost of $6,000.
Second.
Any
Any
questions?
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries unanimously. Okay, old business, and Lanny, we'll get to COVID issues sometime here later, in a few minutes. Is there any old business that needs to be discussed? Okay, with that, new business, Mark has a proposal for sidewalk cleaning. Ironically, Mark, as I was driving out of here last night with my wife, she said, God, these sidewalks are dirty. So,
Every year we have to do the sidewalks. It's just the nature of the beast with the rain and the trees and et cetera. And we've gone out to several companies over the years. We find that Dome has been a preferred vendor. He has not changed his price, I don't think, in the past 7 years. We have tried other companies to no avail. They don't do a good job. We found that they left streaks and other problems. They didn't finish the job the one time. We had to come back. So we asked that we just take care of this and have it done. It's in the yearly budget. I just need a motion.
okay, so is this the $14,000 proposal, Mark?
Yes, it is.
Question.
All right, I
When-
move
Question.
well, I'll make a motion and we can
Okay.
discuss. Brownie, how's that?
It's just a question, but go ahead. Okay.
I move we approve $14,000 for sidewalk cleaning.
I'll second and then.
Second.
I'll
All
ask
right,
my
let's have a
question.
discussion and questions.
Okay, my question, Mark, we want to wait till after the rainy season, so this wouldn't be done to at least November, December, right?
I generally schedule it in the late September, October timeframe.
I think that's too early. I find my driveway,
I-
I clean it in February and I have to do it again if I do, because those last 2 months are very rainy.
I can ask. Typically, the vendors are not available in November and December on this late in the year.
Because
So-
what I'm saying is we kind of it can almost come back that in a month, 2 months. It's amazing how fast my driveway and the sidewalk in front of my house, 2 months of the rainy season, it's getting black again, or not black, but dark. So
Well, this is a good point. I think the instruction to Cezanne would be to try to schedule it as late in the fall as possible.
yeah, that's my question. Do try to schedule as late as possible.
We will.
Okay, moving on. Oh, no, we got to vote on this.
Yeah.
All in favor of approving the money for sidewalk cleaning?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next subject's not on the agenda. Lanny wants to talk to us some more about COVID.
Unfortunately, did everyone get my report via email?
Yes.
Yep,
Okay, so that I
got
won't, it'll be an attachment for homeowners, but I won't read it to you. But basically, things have gotten much worse in certain areas of the country. And unfortunately, both Collier and Lee counties are up there as some of the worst places in the country. Jacksonville's a little bit worse, but we're pretty bad. Our positivity rate is back up to where it was in February. Indicating that an awful lot of people in both Collier and Lee counties are infectious and are spreading it to others on a daily basis. In light of that, I move that we revise our COVID management plan as follows. Number one, to require staff and request that other vaccinated people wear masks in the clubhouse whenever they're in the same room as another person, and stay at least 6 feet away from others indoors and outdoors. And we post signs with these guidelines on our doors and pool gates.
point
I will
out what,
second, I will second the motion so we can have a discussion.
point out
Okay.
point out what's the change in that motion? What changes?
The
in it?
change is that we took down all signs about social distancing and masking. So we're now putting back up signs about social distancing and masking, but the emphasis is on the unvaccinated people. That's what's different. We've had it for everyone in the past, but now the emphasis is on unvaccinated people.
But the big,
As we started to talk about earlier, there's no way we can determine who those people are. But this is a clear statement to them that if they know they're unvaccinated, then we are taking the responsible action to protect others.
okay.
Let me finish my sentence.
Well, you
that-
haven't
that-
answered my
that-
question. What's different yet? Okay. You're giving me a
that-
lot of
that
words.
they-
It sounded like to me what was different is requiring the staff for masks, which is I'm against if they've been vaccinated.
No, okay, this is only for unvaccinated.
But the
This
way
is
it's read, I
only-
thought it required all staff.
No.
I misread it then, okay?
Okay, no, sorry, I will clarify this. Required
Yeah.
unvaccinated staff
Okay, that was
and
my question.
request other unvaccinated people.
That's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
okay, and the difference is that we've dropped all postings and now we're reminding those. I think that this will clarify that we are taking appropriate, from a legal perspective, appropriate actions to try to prevent infection. We can't go beyond this based on Florida laws, but we are at least recognizing how much worse things are here and reminding people who are unvaccinated that they should be paying attention to this.
Yeah, that's fine. My only concern, I didn't want to require vaccinated staff to mask.
No, sorry,
Okay,
no.
Okay.
Lauren,
Although I believe wait staff are required even if they are vaccinated, just by staff policy, but it's not board policy.
Okay.
Lauren,
Do we have any plans to send Lanny's report in some shape or form out to all homeowners, out to all to tennis members, to urging them by the numbers and data, if you're not vaccinated, to get vaccinated and the importance of it? Is that something that the communications committee should consider in some sort of FYI?
Well, the tennis program always conveys to the tennis members any changes in our rules. So there's a separate email that goes out on a weekly basis to all tennis members, homeowners and non-homeowners. So if the board approves this, this information will be communicated to tennis members. I don't know if as a club, we can recommend that people get vaccinated, just like Chap was saying. He was recommending it as an individual. I would as a physician and an individual, but I don't know if there's a club that we can do that.
But if we
Uh-huh.
provide the information for them without making a statement as to whether we think you should get vaccinated.
yeah,
but
yeah.
give them the data that's available
Sure.
to them.
I think that's a really good idea, Lauren.
I think that, that was startling to me. I'm sitting up here in Connecticut where 70% of us are vaccinated. So that was
okay.
really startling to me when I
Yeah.
saw those numbers. I would hope it would startle somebody else into getting the vaccine. But if they don't
I'm not-
know it, if they
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know
not sure
those
that lack of
numbers, then-
information is the reason why they're not, but I
Well,
certainly
it
don't
might
disagree
not
with-
be, but
Yeah,
if it.
I
if
don't
it could-
disagree with sending the information out.
Right. If it
And
could
just the
throw
question is, do we do it in the FYI or do we do it in the tennis? Everybody gets the FYI.
Well, I would say that it's not just, I understand what you're saying. There's a rule change here. We have to get it out to everybody. But I just think it would be important to communicate that information in whatever way that's politically correct to everybody that's associated with Sterling Oaks as a homeowner, as a renter, or as a as a tennis member from the outside.
Lauren, I would be very pleased, as I think the rest of the board would be, if you could work with whoever it is that puts out the FYI. I guess that's Cezanne.
Yep.
To
I'll
come
have
up
the-
with an FYI on this subject, as long as it falls short of
Right. Of saying, hey, stupid, go
Going
get a
too far.
vaccination. Right. Gotcha. I got it.
All right, do it.
Okay. All right.
Anybody
Suzanne, then I'll
object to having Lauren just do that? No. Okay, Lauren, green light.
Suzanne,
John?
I'll talk with you, okay?
John?
You're on mute, John.
Thank you.
You're on-
Sorry about that. Yeah, okay. Aren't we jumping the gun on this? I've only heard, getting these stricter restrictions out there. I've only heard a couple places in the whole country that are doing this. Things are going pretty well at Sterling Oaks. Do we want to try to ruin things? I guess, Mark, what are the other communities doing in our area? Are they making these stricter COVID guidelines?
Currently, I sent out and just received over the past 2 days, there are no new mask mandates at any of the area community clubs at this point in time. Of course, everybody seems to be following the CDC guidelines and the state, governmental guidelines, but there hasn't been any new mandatory mask mandates at the other clubs, nor at the restaurants or at Publix or Costco or Walmart or any of the others have not implemented any of the mask.
But this isn't a mandate, Mark.
Well, I meant, nobody has changed their rule to push that you wear masks at any point in time. There is people who are asking those that are not vaccinated to wear a mask, which seems to be fairly common practice.
Well, how about, I think what's appropriate here, Lanny, and it probably falls short of what you'd like, but it seems to me to be appropriate that we recommend that all non-vaccinated staff and members wear masks.
Well, that's essentially what I'm saying for people other than staff.
Right.
I think it's my understanding that from a legal perspective, we need to be more careful about our staff than homeowners, because our staff work for us, and just the way the wait staff are still wearing masks, that all staff in a room that are unvaccinated should be is my recommendation to the club, just to indicate that we are being appropriately cautious. In terms of our other people's doing this, John, entire states are doing it based on the level of infection in their communities. This is only needed when you're getting up into the very high transmissibility. Most of the country is not at this level. Unfortunately, because of our governor, Florida doesn't send out this kind of information, telling everyone to do this based on the level of infection in the community and whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, do these kinds of things. But most of the country is paying attention. It's just the good news is most of the country doesn't have as much COVID as we do.
We're talking about,
And that's,
we talk about community. What's Sterling Oaks' level of infections and everything else?
there's no way of knowing.
We don't know.
There's no way of knowing.
I see no harm. And it makes sense to me. Here I go again, put my ass on the line. In recommending that all non-vaccinated staff and members wear masks.
In the
We're
clubhouse,
Recommending, we're
inside,
recommending that. We're recommending that. We're not mandating it. We're recommending it.
inside the clubhouse.
Yeah.
I will accept that change to my motion. Knowing that Mark and Suzanne know what I really recommend.
Right. Well, so do I.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
No,
So
that's fine.
restate your motion and see if we can resolve this.
I move that we revise our COVID-19 management plan as follows. Recommend that all unvaccinated staff and other unvaccinated people wear masks in the clubhouse whenever they're in the same room as another person, stay at least 6 feet away from others indoors and outdoors. And number 2, post signs with these rules on on doors and pool gates.
All right. That's the motion. Any discussion? I second that motion. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like Terry, are you voting?
Yeah, I'll vote yes.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Oof. I think that brings us to the end. Date of the next board meeting, tentatively scheduled for the 26th of August. And as an aside on this, when is, who on this board is not physically here right now?
I won't be.
Okay, so will you guys be back in September, do you think, or what?
I'll be back in August.
We'll be back in August.
Yeah. I'll be back in
October for me.
October.
Well, I think we ought to shoot for going back to live meetings. No later than October. Does anyone object to that? Unless this COVID thing blows
Yes,
up.
Yeah,
pending COVID, please.
That would be my only reservation.
Right. Let's see what happens.
Okay,
Right.
well, I mean, the point is, I want to get back to schmoozing with you in person.
You want to buy
Uh,
drinks again, huh, chap?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, with that, I think if we have a motion to adjourn, we can adjourn.
Move it.
All right, Terry moves that we adjourn, seconded by Lauren. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Bye.
All right, opposed, nobody. Good day, everyone. And
See you.
Bye,
please,
everyone.
please
See ya.
don't anyone get upset here if everything you want to do doesn't get done. Unlike me, I tend to take things maybe too personally, but please don't be like me. This is give and take, and we're all trying to do the best we can here. So thanks a lot, everyone, and see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.